So the time has come for me to retire. Sorry I'm old, but that's the way it is. For me, it's a privileged way to complete my stipendiary ministry, actually being here. Good, joyful, and I thank you for the support that you have given me in that. I'll miss this place. I shouldn't have written all of this. I'll miss this place because it is my home. And there's no particular reason for the timing, only that for me, after thought and prayer, it just seems the right time for me and for you, believe it or not. Plenty of time for us to prepare for the future for all of us. And there's no reason it isn't going to be a good and hopeful one for all of us. Just different. God will lead us. As for practical things, I'll leave at the end of June. I'll move to Sherburn, near Durham. For those of you who know that area, it's the village I'm going to, not the care home. Some people have raised eyebrows, but it's not quite yet. Oh yeah. Yeah, well, I figured, well, when I get to that stage, I can just get in my chair and roll down the steps and be there. I know the bishop and the archdeacon are very supportive of what's going on here and the work of this church and the other churches as well. And they want it, they're keen for it to flourish and continue. So you shouldn't have any problems that way. It's just a matter of working out what that's going to look like afterwards. But enough of that for now. More important, this immediate crisis and how we act and operate, both as church and individuals in this time of pandemic. How wash your hands translates into stockpile all the loo roll you can. Don't know. But it points to panic, of course. And if you were caught up in that mad rush, it's forgivable. But now that we have all the loo roll we need probably for the next century, it's important to think how we react longer term. Our faith teaches us a way of love. And this is never to be lost. Even when there are plenty of reasonable opportunities to panic, to worry, to be selfish, to exclude, in the guise of protecting self and family. And there are many precedents for how to live the Christian life in times of crisis. And this is a time of crisis. For Christmas, I was given a wonderful book called Priests de la Resistance. And it's a series of short biographies of religious folk, not just priests actually, men and women, who bucked the trend during World War II, that trend to compromise, to make peace at any cost, to negotiate, to collaborate for a quieter life, which didn't materialize for anybody. Well, one of the stories is about Maximilian Kolbe, who built, before the war, new Christian communities from Poland all the way to Nagasaki. He was a publisher and writer, just a vibrant life. And as the war became closer, he found himself as part of the resistance. And as he was led out of his community to a concentration camp, is reported to have said to people as he was leaving, "Do not forget love." And I guess that is the best advice we can have. Very simple, very general, straightforward, but do not forget love. It will be a time of crisis, and whatever happens, that reaction is key to all the decisions we make. We may, at some point, who knows, this hasn't come down yet, of course, but we may at some point be asked not to come to church. What do we do then? How will we act in love? And we'll find ways to do that. But certainly, personally, we need to stay in contact with one another, more than we would normally. Now, this church is actually very well set for this, because you already have several kinds of networks to keep in contact with people. I know the choir does, but I know other people do informally, and it's to use those networks to the full and make sure people are kept in touch. And although at some point we may not be able to worship, the buildings can still be open, and we can come and pray in small groups. Well, but that's all for the future. But the principle is, how do we act in love and care for one another and for the community around us, not just church folk? And in the kindest way possible. We need to speak out at times against a culture of blame. It's no one's fault. This happens. The hoarding culture, which speaks of selfishness, and other things that people say that speak of carelessness and even hatred. And it's a time to respond in love. I'm not sure I totally agree with that second reading about boasting in our suffering, which the Apostle Paul suggests, but there is wisdom there. And what he's saying is that when suffering happens, it produces, or can produce, endurance. And endurance that we learn can produce character. And character can produce hope, which does not disappoint us. I think there's wisdom there. Like the martyrdom of those World War II resistance workers, we shouldn't be wanting to suffer. They didn't want to do what they were doing. They felt called to do it. But if we find ourselves in that place, what will we say and what will we do that marks us out as followers of Jesus Christ? And that hope we speak of comes in the fact that God will be with us. And also that this will end, this pandemic. Even if it lasts for months, as some predictions tell us, those months will come to an end, and our more or less normal life will resume. But at that point, we will not want to regret having passed up opportunities to love and to care when we should have, in whatever way is possible for us. Do not forget love. That is the mark and the sign of our life in Christ. Amen.